Hey everyone, here we go. Hello, we got the first people coming in. Hi Leo. All right, just waiting for Elizabeth to join. All right, here we go. Okay, I hope this works. Okay, I just requested Elizabeth to join. Hey,
Oh,
how are you?
hi.
How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. All right. So this is the first Instagram live for both of us.
Yes, we're newbies.
Yay! I'm excited. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, for anyone coming in or like seeing this afterwards, this is an Instagram live with Elizabeth. I'm super excited, talking about five senses during quarantine. It's the first Instagram live for both of us, so bear with us with any like technical issues or whatever. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So we're both fairly new to this, and before I talk more about you or we talk about the piece, why don't you just introduce yourself first so we know who you are, what's going on?
Sure. Hi. So I'm Elizabeth Senksy. I'm an American writer living in Amsterdam. So I write professionally as a copywriter for different companies. And then for myself, I sometimes write poetry and personal essays, which I share on my Instagram. And I used to have a blog, which is now a bit defunct. But yeah, so that's about it. And
Great.
I'm so happy you invited me to write a piece for your platform. So
Absolutely. But you right now, you're not in Amsterdam, you're in the US, right?
yes, so I just flew home actually.
Right.
Yes, so I wanted to come see my family after the whole quarantine
Mm-hmm.
thing, and I found out I was able to travel, so I took the opportunity to just come home for a minute.
Oh,
And
lovely.
yeah,
So I hope you aren't too jet lagged.
working in my favor this way, so that's
All
really
right. Okay, that's good. Right.
yeah.
So the story, how we met or how I got in touch is actually a bit different. So last year during Slash conference in Helsinki, we actually met, stayed in touch, and then we were like, hey, follow each other Instagram, and anytime there's an opportunity coming up, we might just reach out. And then I randomly texted you during quarantine because I kept seeing your posts and your writing on Instagram, and I was like, well, I actually like every time you wrote something, I screenshotted it, and I was like, why don't you just ask Elizabeth to, write something about the five cents during quarantine? And I'm so happy that you said yes. So that's sort of how we got together and how it connected us. So thanks to social media and this conference last year in Helsinki, actually.
Definitely. Yeah, and I was happy you gave me a prompt, a reason to write about it. It was a good moment to reflect. So,
Right. So where did you spend the quarantine mostly? In Amsterdam or anywhere else?
so I actually sort of had a unique situation in that I started seeing somebody right before quarantine who lived
Right.
in the countryside there. So yeah, I actually ended up quarantining there, and it was the best possible place because it was really in nature. I wasn't trapped in the city in a tiny apartment, so I felt really fortunate in that sense.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
All right. So before we actually read out the piece, because I think that that's what it's all about, that we actually hear your piece and like what you wrote. Why don't you just take us on the journey for a bit? How did you feel about it? How did you feel experiencing quarantine and the five senses? And how did you approach this? Yeah,
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah. So when you asked me to write something about the five senses, you didn't initially say it had to be related to quarantine, but I was really sort of thinking about this moment I was in and how actually the longer I was in quarantine, the more I felt connected to my senses and
Mm-hmm.
my physical body. And, with all of the different Zoom meetings, and it felt like everyone was sort of transferring their normal life to the like virtual world. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually it was getting overwhelming. So I felt like more and more detaching from the virtual and wanting to be more just in the physical and sort of like taking it as a moment to disconnect a bit as much as I possibly could. So,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's I started to think about writing this.
You actually asked in your Insta story yesterday, I think, right? Like you asked your followers how if they connected more with their own five senses, and the response was almost 90%. They said yes, right?
I think it was like 70%. Yeah,
Oh,
70%
right. Okay.
said they were more connected to their physical senses and 30% less. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So anyone who doesn't know it, the five senses are what you see, hear, smell, touch, and what you taste. Essentially everything, or like the way how we interact with our environment. All
Yeah.
right. Shall we go directly into it? Do you want to like read it out and then we start chatting about it afterwards?
Sure. Yeah. It's just a short little reflection. I'm calling it Quarantine Through the Five Senses. Yeah. So, quarantine has granted me the privilege of subtle revelations. While my world has become immersed in the heady cloud of online interactions and appointments, I simultaneously find myself increasingly rooted in my earthbound body and all the sensations it has to offer. From first light, I pull my groggy bones up and urge my body awake. The smack of flip-flops hitting tiled floor announces my presence down the stairs to the first touch point of the day. Hot water frothing over hickory-hued grounds. I pull the mug up to my nose and inhale the homey aroma. Only after the first sips does sight begin to take hold of my awareness. Blessed with a view of green, I stare out the double window, eyes absorbing the scene. Kelly, forest, lime, shamrock, and a burst of mulberry, all bending and rustling in quiet crescendo. The wind that takes the trees eventually finds its way to my face. A welcome relief, cool and gentle. I breathe in deep. As if reading my desires, the wind gusts towards me, bringing with it a sampler platter of dew, cut grass, manure, all the elements that add up to that distinctive scent of spring. A powerful device, I find, independent of time or place, that both transports me back 10 years and alerts me to the change ahead. The change that is always a constant, though usually flying stealthily under my radar, and yet now feels more imminent than ever, with this first and hopefully last wave of quarantine coming to an end. With the transition approaching, I'm reflecting on this bubble in time, what I will look back on fondly, what I hope to carry forward with me. The wholesome taste of meal made by hand, snacks of purple grapes with aged yellow cheese, veggies fresh out of the oven, tender and steaming, fragrant with olive oil and thyme. My hands in moist earth, burying seedlings in the blind hope that they will eventually shoot up into new life. Bike rides to woods no more than 1 kilometer away that feel like an adventure to the other side of the globe. When the rush of life has picked back up, as I imagine it inevitably will, I hope to revisit these memories like precious stones carefully set within me. When it all seems too much or my perspective blurs out of focus, I hope to pause and take a moment to nestle back down into these senses, knowing that they are just one piece of this experience we call life, yet with the recognition that through these most basic faculties, we are able to embody a presence, a sense of being in the world that matters most.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I loved it. When you sent it over for the first time via email, I was like, I think I read it twice or three times. I was amazed because it truly touched me, and I can tell it like spoke out of your soul and out of your own experiences. So thank you so much for reading this out and sharing it. Take us on the journey. In what situation did you write it? What time of quarantine? How was the approach? Was it in one piece or several days that you used?
So I think when you first presented me with the prompt, it was like maybe April, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started thinking about it, and I think I jotted down a few ideas that I had. And then later, as I saw that quarantine was coming to an end, and then I realized I would probably be going back to Amsterdam soon and everything would be shifting, I sort of took a moment to flesh it out a little bit more and really reflect, like, okay, what is it about this moment that's special, and what do I want to remember about it? And then sort of like filling the piece out from there.
Right. How did your own awareness and your own perception, maybe even of the five senses, change during quarantine?
Yeah, I think I became more aware of them because I think in, my daily life, I was just sort of rushing from meeting to meeting in the city, and yeah, always state of action, I guess, in some sense. So this moment was really a chance, and I was super privileged in that sense that I was able to have this chance to kind of take this moment to reflect, whereas I know for many people that was the case. So yeah, I felt super fortunate that for me it sort of rooted me more in my senses, I thought.
You wrote this one line, which I think is one of my favorites, and it says, "What I hope to carry forward with me," and then comes something after. What came true so far, and how?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I was actually talking about that with some friends the other day. It does feel now like life has sort of picked back up again. And
Especially in Amsterdam, I guess, it feels like
yeah,
everything's opening up so quickly.
yeah, it feels like almost nothing happened there. It's like no one's really wearing masks. It's kind of bizarre. Um, but yeah, so I think like I was thinking, okay, so what did I keep with me? And I think like I sort of have it as a touch point, so I do remember like that feeling. And so like when things start like picking up again, and I feel like okay, I don't have time to cook, or I feel like I'm on social media and feeling like FOMO. Okay, this person's going there, maybe I need to go there. Then I'm like, okay, wait a second, no.
Right.
Yeah, this is what you wanted to avoid before. So yeah, I guess yeah, sort of using it as like a touch point or a reminder in a sense.
So true. Like I can totally relate. Just being forced to slow down, and being more present in the here and now really helped me. Instead of always rushing around from A to B, as you said, there was nowhere you could rush to. There was no FOMO because you couldn't miss out on anything. So you kind of had to become aware of the here and now. So
Yeah, definitely.
how do you now? I mean, it hasn't been too long ago, but how do you now look back on quarantine, and what do you remember and how do you remember it?
For me, I mean, like I mentioned, I had a super privileged experience for quarantine. And yeah, I was still working, work slowed down a bit, which was a bit worrisome for a moment, but all my basic needs were met and I was in nature. And I think that was amazing. Like, I think anyone who was able to escape to nature during quarantine did. I think it all sort of alerted us to that need. Whereas, like, I always thought I'm a city girl, I need to be around all these things all the time. And then once I had the chance to try it, I realized how happy I could be with less. But yeah, so I think I remember it sort of like this shiny bubble. And it also sort of coincided with this new relationship in my life, which actually worked out really well. I know for some couples.
It's literally from 0 to 100. So then you know that it works.
Yeah, so for us, it worked really well. And it was really sort of a gift of just like unfettered time that we had. So
I guess now you really know each other very well.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, I kind of look at it like a special bubble of time, honestly. And that's not to say there weren't challenges or weren't difficulties. I think the hardest thing was just this dealing with uncertainty that we were all sort of grappling. Like I would try to make plans in my head and then, no, wait, you can't make plans. So stop.
Right.
And it really sort of the world saying, okay, like it is only the now, which is something we're all trying to hold on to. Like you hear a lot about mindfulness and meditation and being present. But this was really like, okay, you're forced to be present because you have no choice.
Right. And I don't know about you, but it took time for me to accept it. It was the first time in a while I couldn't plan forward. There was high degree of uncertainty and everything. And it took me quite some time to actually get used to it, to accept sorry, there's like this baby here. To accept that I had to be present, to learn that I don't know what comes tomorrow. I don't know where I will be next week, next month, or whatever. So yes, mentally, I found it pretty challenging, to be honest. But then also Nicole just said there was something beautiful about the lockdown experience. I already missed that feeling. And it's bizarre because I think you can say it if you're in a lucky position, but I can totally relate to that one. I miss this feeling of I miss this feeling of not running around, not knowing what's coming up. And it's actually really nice to be forced and to slow down. So I truly enjoyed it afterwards.
Yeah, it's sort of like that tyranny of choice thing. Like many of us have a lot of options of things we can do or things we feel like we should do or have to do. And when you cut off, you're like, okay, what can I do with what's right in front of me? And that's also it's sort of like the freedom you find within structure. Like we actually do enjoy some limits where
Mm-hmm.
even though we're sort of resistant to them. So.
Absolutely. Now, there's one piece or like one extract that I would like to read out, and I would like to talk more about that one. When it all seems too much or my perspective blurs out of focus, I hope to pause and take a moment to nestle back down into the senses, knowing that they are just one piece of this experience we call life. Yet, with the recognition that through these most basic faculties, we are able to embody a presence, a sense of being in the world that matters most. So let's talk more about this beautiful sentence.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I was thinking about how, yeah, we're often detached from our physical senses, especially in modern life where everything is sort of virtual, and we're often, and especially if you're working, most modern work is more information work, so you're really in your head all the time and you're not connected to your physical body as much. So thinking about how our senses can be like a meditation, sort of meditative tool, like once we're able to just like really focus on them and root back down in them, it grounds us. And it's sort of a paradox that I feel like when it grounds us, you're also then granted a higher perspective eventually. Like you're able to have more clarity in your mind, thoughts, and everything else that is real, but you can't touch it. You know? So that's what I was thinking about when I was writing that, like using them as sort of a meditative tool.
Absolutely. Is there any tool or any exercises or any routine you established to, become more aware of your senses, also now that the lockdown is over for you mostly?
Well, yoga has always been a huge part of my life. So, yeah, I think anytime I start to feel like, okay, I've been behind my laptop too much, or I don't feel, I think also with quarantine, I've sort of became more attuned to my physical body, like, because you had less distractions. You're like, how does my body feel today? Maybe I need to do a workout. Maybe I need to do something. And so now I'm sort of more attuned to that, I feel. And then I'm like, okay, I need to do a yoga class, or I need to do something to get me back into my body and out of my head a little more.
Also, it's interesting because personally I did a lot of yoga and meditation during the lockdown. And I used apps like Headspace or other online, videos on YouTube or whatever. And so many times they actually said, okay, to calm down, become aware of what you hear. What do you smell? What do you see right now? Become aware of your surrounding, and be present. So there again, I think the five senses are a really good way to actually, be present, be there, be you, and reconnect with yourselves, as you said it.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think what you're doing is so great for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we're actually really excited for this one. We're working on an app, got the second round of feedback, working on an ebook, so see how it goes. But thanks to amazing pieces of art like you, we kind of want to highlight the importance of the five senses again and allow everyone to reconnect and become aware more of how we actually experience things and not just the what. Yeah,
I think we sort of lose the connection with our more animalistic side. And yeah, that's also what connects us. That's what really makes us all the same at the end of the day. And when something's wrong with your physical body, you really feel it, and then you're forced to pay attention.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today. For anyone who just joined, thank you so much. Also, if you've been here the entire time, there's been some comments like, wow, and this is amazing. So we definitely put it up so everyone gets the chance to read it again. Thank you so much for joining this first Instagram Live. We put it also as the IGTV. We put it on our YouTube, on our podcast, so everyone gets the chance to listen, to watch, to read. It will be out there, accessible for everyone. So thank you so much. Just look for my Five Senses Experience. Look out for the podcast. It's also on Spotify, on Apple, on any preferred medium, actually. And Elizabeth, thank you so much. It really touched me, and I think it's something to always go back to and also remind ourselves once all of this crazy phase is over, to reconnect and have a great reminder to be more mindful. So thank you so much. Beautifully written, and all the best, and enjoy the time with your family in the US now.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yes.
Comments.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.